Hello, everybody. It is a pleasure being here today. My talk today is not about my research, and you must be saying, thank God. My talk about today is the people who have made my research possible. I made a promise a while back, and today is the day I fulfill that promise. For the past few years, I have had the privilege and the honor to meet and interview over 300 Latinos or Hispanics, all of them who at the time were taking care of somebody in their family, a loved one who was living with Alzheimer's disease or a related dementia. You may know them as caregivers, yet they do not see themselves as such. They will tell you that above all, they are husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, and sons and daughters to their loved one. I listen to their stories, and I'm here to condensate them today. I heard and learned about the tremendous struggles that they face on a daily basis. They lead very stressful lives. It is very difficult. But what truly grabbed my attention was the tremendous difference that I began to hear between how these Latinos who spoke to me in English or Spanish, and some of them both in English and Spanish, talked about their experience of caregiving for the loved one. There was something very different about how they described the experience as compared to those English-speaking caregivers who were from other cultures. When I speak about caregivers, I am not so sure that I'm using the correct word. Why? Because we don't even have agreement in the English language about the word caregiver. In this country, we may know them as caregivers, but in some other countries, they are called carers. Then somebody comes along and makes things a lot more difficult for me because they decide to translate caregiver to cuidador. But when you look it up in the dictionary, you're going to find out that cuidador is an adjective. It denotes someone who minds something, somebody who is careful. Nowhere have I been able to find out a source that tells me that cuidador is a person. The person taking care of horses is a trainer. The person that is taking care of animals at the zoo is a zookeeper, and you will find many back translations. But there is no source that tells me that cuidador is a person who has assumed full responsibility for the well-being of a loved one or another person. I challenge you, send me the source. My email is on the program. I would love to have that source. This really is a problem, an issue of a concept lost in translation. Culture is language, and language is culture, and I believe that we have that agreement in general in the sciences. Language is also the vehicle that allows us to pass on from generation to generation traditions and values, and is also the vehicle that gives meaning to our reality, to our world. It is not uncommon to have Latino households that are intergenerational, and children grow up witnessing the very dutiful and respectful way in which family members take care of others. It is not a bad transition. In fact, it's a very natural transition to grow up in a Latino household taking care of family. But that's not the same in other cultures in which the person may begin to feel captive in that role. And in fact, they may begin to experience something that in the Alzheimer's caregivers world, we have come to label as caregiver burden. You thought that the word cuidador created problems for me. That's a piece of cake. The real problem is burden, because somebody has translated burden to carga. And whenever I use the word carga, when I interviewed these Latinos, they cried, they felt offended, they felt it was demeaning whenever that word, the word carga, was attached to the description of their experience of caring for the loved one. Somebody sitting in the audience today told me about her mother who was dying with Alzheimer's. Carga, she is my blood. I am what I am because of her. How could you possibly ask me that question? I learned a great deal. And those sentiments, I continue to hear them over and over from these Latino families. I told you that I have to fulfill a promise today. So in the less than 5 minutes that I have left, I am hoping to leave you with the 10 most important things that these families will tell you if they had the privilege to share this stage with me today. Number 10, please get to know me and my family very well before you start suggesting placement of my loved one in an institution. We're almost never ready to have the nursing home talk. Why? Because we believe in interdependence, not in independence, not in being individualistic and competitive. Those things are core values in other cultures. In our culture, we derive our strength from our families. Dementia really rocks the core of our families. It's a tremendous strain, but we consider it a very private matter. Keeping our loved one at home for as long as possible is something that gives us a tremendous sense of pride and that allows us to fulfill a filial responsibility. That is why we have a tremendous time, just a real bad time, asking for help and using services like respite and home health services. Very hard for us to do that. Number 7, no one taught us that we had to assume this responsibility. It was role model for us our entire lives. No one had to teach me that. Number 6, when you ask me, or when you say, hi, how are you? It means the world to me when you stop and listen to how I am doing. We are very personalistic. We really are. Very seldom you will hear that I say, fine, thank you, and that I'll be on my way. That's just not us. Number 5, it is not true that there is no conflict in Latino families. It's a lot of it. It's a very well-kept secret. But it's many of us, and we all want to have a say when major decisions need to be made about our loved ones. Number 4, it is an honor to be taking care of my loved one. Number 3, yes, it is difficult. I think it's a cross that I carry, but I carry very willingly. Number 2, it is a duty and it's not a burden that has to, please learn from us. It's not a carga, it's not a burden. It's a heavy job that we do with love. And number 1, the most important thing for me as a person, as a Latino family member, is to know that I will be able at some time to fulfill my duty as a family member. When the time comes, I need to make sure that my loved ones know that I will be there for them. I really want to thank you, TEDx, for putting the T back in there, because it was very important. Molly was joking here. I was the one freaking out up there saying, this is impossible, this cannot be happening to me. It's not just the people in the audience today whose the photographs of their loved ones have been on the slides. I'm fulfilling the promise I made a few years ago to caregivers in Colombia, in Peru, in Mexico, in Puerto Rico. So this one was for you guys. Thank you for your attention.